Welcome to the Planning Your Summer Food Service Program Eligibility Training for Summer Food Service Program sponsors hosted by the Oregon Department of Education Child Nutrition Programs. In this training, we will review information on how to determine the eligibility of a child, how to determine the eligibility of a sponsor, and the different kinds of SFSP sites. Children age 18 and under may receive meals through SFSP. A person 19 years of age and over who has a mental or physical disability as determined by a state or local education agency and who participates during the school year in a public or private nonprofit school program is also eligible to receive meals. In certain circumstances, pregnant women who receive early Head Start services are also eligible to receive meals through SFSP if they are age 18 or under. To establish eligibility, prospective mothers must be enrolled in early Head Start and be eligible to receive school meals through the NSLP or another child nutrition program. Only certain types of organizations can sponsor the program. Sponsors must be a public or private nonprofit school food authority, a public or private nonprofit residential camp, a public or private nonprofit college or university participating in the National Youth Sports Program, a unit of local, county, municipal, state, or federal government, or any other type of private nonprofit organization. Special rules apply to private nonprofit organizations. Private nonprofit sponsors must be tax exempt under Section 501c of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986. Although churches must be tax exempt, there is no federal requirement that they provide documentation of their tax exempt status. Therefore, churches are the only private nonprofit organizations that may be exempted from obtaining documentation of federal tax exempt status. All other private nonprofit organizations must provide documentation from the IRS of their tax exempt status. For purpose of a program participation, a church could be its integrated auxiliaries or a convention or association of churches, synagogue, religious order, or religious organization that is an integral part of the church and that is engaged in carrying out the functions of a church. Sponsors that have successfully participated in SFSP in the previous year, meaning those that have not been found to be seriously deficient in program operations, may submit condensed information for succeeding years. Experienced sponsors and sites in good standing only need to submit information that is likely to change from year to year and are not required to submit the same detail of organizational and operational information required of new sponsors. SFSAs and other sponsors currently in good standing in an NSLP, school breakfast program, or child meal care food program are not required to submit further evidence of financial and administrative capability when applying for SFSP participation. Typically, SFAs and CACFP sponsors participating in other child nutrition programs have already demonstrated that they have the financial and administrative capability necessary to operate these programs. A SFSA or CACFP sponsor is considered to be in good standing if it has been reviewed during the previous 12 months and had no significant deficiencies. However, ODE-CMP has the discretion to deny the applications or, at a minimum, require additional evidence of financial and administrative capability from SFAs and CACFP sponsors that have had significant problems operating the NSLP, SBP, or CACFP. Sponsors must demonstrate financial and administrative capability. Potential and returning sponsors are required to demonstrate that they have the necessary financial and administrative capability to comply with program requirements. They must accept final financial and administrative responsibility for all their sites. Not be seriously deficient. To be approved, applicants must not have been declared seriously deficient or terminated from the SFSP or any other federal child nutrition program in previous years. However, such an applicant may be approved if ODE-CMP determines that it has taken appropriate corrective actions to prevent recurrence of the deficiencies and has repaid any outstanding debts. Serve low-income children. Sponsor must agree to provide regularly scheduled meal service for children in designated low-income areas, or they must agree to serve low-income children. Camps do not need to meet this criterion. Sponsors of both residential and non-residential camps do not have to establish area eligibility. However, they must collect and maintain individual income eligibility forms. Camps are reimbursed only for those enrolled children who meet the free and reduced price eligibility standards. Conduct a nonprofit food service. Sponsors must conduct food services through SFSP that are not for profit. A sponsor is operating a nonprofit food service if the food service operations conducted by the institution are principally for the benefit of participating children and all of the program reimbursement funds are used solely for the operation or improvement of such food service. This does not mean the program must break even or operate at a loss, but that all income must be used for the sole purpose of operating a nonprofit food service. Sponsors also must provide year-round service. Sponsors must provide a year-round public service to the area in which they intend to provide the SFSP. ODE-CMP may grant exceptions to this year-round service requirement for sponsors of residential camps, migrant sites, and in other certain circumstances. Exercise management control over sites. New applicants and returning sponsors must demonstrate in their application that they will exercise management control over the meal service at all of their sites. Management control of the meal service means that the sponsor is responsible for maintaining contact with meal service staff, ensuring that there is adequately trained meal service staff on site, and monitoring site operations throughout the period of program participation. ODE-CMP also may require experienced sponsors to demonstrate in their application that they will exercise management control over the meal service at all of their sites. Management responsibilities cannot be delegated below the sponsor level. The quality of the meal service, the conduct of site personnel, and the adequacy of record keeping reflect directly upon the sponsor's performance. This performance is subject to audit by ODE-CMP, by the USD Office of the Inspector General, and by the Government Accountability Office. Conduct pre-operational visits. Sponsors must certify that all sites have been visited and are capable of providing meal service for the number of children as planned. Sign written agreements. Approved sponsors must sign a written permanent agreement with ODE-CMP. Sponsors may operate the SFSP at one or more sites, which are the actual locations where meals are served and children eat in a supervised setting. Eligible sites are those that serve children in low-income areas or those that serve specific groups of low-income children. Sponsors must provide documentation that proposed sites meet the income eligibility criteria required by law. There are three common types of sites: open sites, camps, which are residential or non-residential, and closed enroll sites. There are also sites that serve special populations of children or have unique characteristics. These include, but may not be limited to, restricted open sites, migrant sites, and National Youth Sports Program sites. Most sponsors establish site eligibility on need and openness. If a site is located in a needy area, which is where 50% or more of the children residing in the area are eligible for free or reduced price school meals, and meals are made available to all children in the area on a first-come, first-served basis, these sites are considered open. Sponsors of open sites must take the necessary steps to allow meal service access to all children requesting a meal at the site. Information regarding the meal service at open sites must be publicized in the community served. On occasion, a sponsor that would normally operate an open site, meaning initially open to the broad community, must restrict or limit the feeding site's attendance for reasons of space, security, safety, or control. In recognition of these circumstances, these types of sites operate as restricted open sites. Sponsors must make known publicly that the site is open on a first-come, first-served basis to all children of the community at large, but that the meal service will be limited. Both open and restricted open sites must be located in a school attendance area where 50% or more of the children residing in the area are eligible for free or reduced price school meals. The percentage must be documented by data provided by public or private school officials, census data, welfare or education agencies, zoning commissions, or other appropriate sources. Please note, food pantry data may not be used to document need. To qualify as a restricted open site, the site initially must be open to broad community participation from the eligible area in which it is located. Again, the only limits that may be imposed on participation are daily limits for reasons of security, safety, or control. Schools that operate accredited summer school programs may not enroll in the summer food service program as a restricted open site instead of an open site, so that meals may be served only to summer school participants. This is not the intent of the restricted open site option and is an unauthorized use of this site designation. The purpose of the restricted open site designation in the summer food service program is to allow sponsors that want to operate an open site to restrict or limit site participation due to reasons of space, security, safety, or control. Camps can be residential or non-residential day camps which offer regularly scheduled food service as part of an organized program for enrolled children. In residential camps, participants spend the duration of the organized program in a 24-hour supervised care setting and receive a regularly scheduled food service as part of the program. Sponsors of non-residential campsites must offer a continuous schedule of organized cultural or recreational programs for enrolled children between meal services. Unlike open, restricted open, and closed enrolled sites, sponsors of both residential and non-residential camps do not have to establish area eligibility. However, they must collect and maintain individual income eligibility forms. Camps are reimbursed only for those enrolled children who meet the free and reduced price eligibility standards.
Closed enrolled sites are usually established where an identified group of needy children live in a pocket of poverty, identified low-income children are transported to a congregate meal site located in an area with less than 50% eligible children, or a program provides recreational, cultural, religious, or other types of organized activities for a specific group of children. These types of sites are open only to enrolled children or to an identified group of children as opposed to the community at large. Closed enrolled sites must also establish the eligibility either through the individual income application of the children attending the site or through area eligibility. To establish eligibility based on the income of the individual children, sites must collect income eligibility forms. At least 50% of the enrolled children at the site must be eligible for free or reduced price school meals. Instead of determining the individual income eligibility of each enrolled child, a site may document its status as a closed enrolled site by using area eligibility information. This may only be used if the site is serving children that live in the area in which the site is located. The site information sheet that sponsors submit to ODE CMP with an application to participate in the SFSP must include the projected number of children eligible for free or reduced price school meals and the projected total enrollment for each site. If site eligibility is based on individual eligibility forms, ODE CMP must carefully monitor actual participation during the early program visits to ensure that 50% level is actually reached. Accredited summer schools do not qualify as closed enrolled sites and should obtain reimbursement for meals under the National School Lunch Program. Schools wishing to serve meals only to children enrolled in academic summer school programs may receive reimbursement only through the National School Lunch Program and School Breakfast Program. If, in addition to serving children enrolled in an accredited summer school, the school plans to serve children in the community at large, it may operate an open site through the Summer Food Service Program or the Seamless Summer option. However, the SFA must enroll as an open site and ensure that these sites are open not only to the children enrolled in summer school, but to any children in the area served by the site. ODE CMP may approve meal service sites which are identified as for-profit locations if the sites are operated under sponsorship of an eligible public or private nonprofit service institution, operate as open sites or restricted open sites, are located in an area in which at least 50% of the children are from households that are eligible for free or reduced price school meals, make meals available to all children in the area and serve meals to children on a first-come, first-served basis, and serve meals at no charge. Enrolled for-profit sites and for-profit camps are not eligible to participate. If approved to operate the meal service at a for-profit site, a sponsor must maintain operational control over the meal service at the site and must ensure that no SFSP funds are provided to the site. The site operators may not prepare the meals, and funds may not be provided, given, or otherwise paid to the site to employ site staff.
SFAs applying to operate the SFSP at the same sites where they provide meal services through the NSLP may follow the application requirements for experienced SFP sponsors and sites instead of the application requirements for new sponsors and sites. SFSAs applying to operate the SFSP must provide the following information: whether the site is rural or non-rural, whether the site's food service will be self-prepped or vended, if a migrant site, certification from a migrant organization that the site serves children of migrant worker families and that it primarily serves migrant children if it also serves non-migrant children, and if a homeless site, information demonstrating the site is not a residential child care institution, description of the method used to ensure that no cash payments or other kind services are used for meal service, and certification that the site only claims meals served to children. A tribal government is recognized as a public entity or local government when consistent with state law. Thus, a tribal government may sponsor SFSP sites assuming other eligibility requirements are met. A tribal government granted nonprofit status will be considered a private nonprofit entity for purposes of SFSP and therefore could act as a sponsor of SFSP sites assuming other eligibility requirements are met.
The two primary sources of data that may be used to determine whether the site that will be served is eligible are school data or census data. School data may be used to establish area eligibility, excluding camps. In order for a site to be determined area eligible, school data must indicate that the proposed meal site is located in a school attendance area where at least 50% of the children are eligible for free or reduced price school meals. To qualify sites, sponsors may use data from elementary, middle, or high schools as long as the site is located in the attendance area of the school. This data should be based on the percentage of children in the school attendance area within which the site is located that are certified eligible for free or reduced price school meals, not the actual school meal participation rates.
In school districts where busing or school choice policies are in place, if the site is located in the school from which free and reduced price meal eligibility data is obtained, sponsors may always rely on that individual school. Additionally, where busing or school choice policies are in place but school attendance areas are still defined, school and non-school site eligibility may be determined based on the enrollment or attendance data obtained for the school the children attend or the school the children would have attended, for example, the neighborhood school where the children live, were it not for the school's busing or school choice policy. If the school district does not have defined school attendance areas, the use of school data is not permitted for non-school sites. In this case, census data may be used to determine area eligibility for NSLP and SFSP. Please note that census data may be used as a first choice for determining area eligibility for NSLP and SFSP rather than using the options described above, even if the school attendance areas are defined. Sponsors may also document the area eligibility of their proposed open or restricted open sites on the basis of census data. SFSP sites that choose to establish eligibility using census data are required to use the most recent data available. Census data is valid for 5 years and must be reassessed when the 5 years has expired. Please review Using Census Data to Determine Area Eligibility training located on ODE CMP's public website for an overview of how to use the Food Research and Action Center map and the Food and Nutrition Services map to determine area eligibility by census data.
Sponsors that operate residential summer camps and non-residential day camps offering both organized programming and a regularly scheduled food service may participate in the SFSP. Non-residential day camps may participate only as sites under eligible sponsoring organizations. Enrolled for-profit sites or for-profit camps are not eligible for participation in SFSP. Unlike other types of sites, camps do not have to establish income eligibility at the 50% level. Instead, camps are reimbursed only for meals served to children who meet the income eligibility criteria. In order to determine eligibility for children, camp sponsors may use the confidential family application for free and reduced price meals, or rely on lists of income eligible children provided by the school system. However, ODE CMP may require camp sponsors to use the confidential family application for free and reduced price meals. The application can be found at the link on the slide. Sponsors of camps are not required to submit the confidential family application for free and reduced price meals or school list of eligible children to ODE CMP. However, they must maintain the list of original approved forms for all eligible children in separate files for each camp session, and the documents must be available for review by ODE CMP.
To qualify as a closed enrolled site, at least 50% of the enrolled children must be from households that meet the income eligibility guidelines. Sponsors can document an enrolled site's eligibility by obtaining lists by name and eligibility status of enrolled children for free and reduced price meals from schools where the children receive school lunch or breakfast. Parental consent forms are not required in order for the local school food authority to provide this information to SFSP sponsors. Asking the parent or guardian of each enrolled child to complete a confidential family application for free and reduced meals. Using area eligibility data for the location of the site rather than using the confidential family application for free and reduced meals, document that at least half of the enrolled children at each site are eligible for free or reduced price meals. This option is not available for camps. Or use census data when the site is located outside of an eligible area. As part of the application process, sponsors of enclosed enrolled sites must provide ODE CMP with a statement of how they intend to document SFSP eligibility using one of the methods listed on the previous slide, an estimate of the total number of children enrolled at the site, and an estimate of the number of children enrolled at the site that are documented as eligible for free or reduced price school meals unless using area eligible data. Sponsors of closed enrolled sites that are not area eligible must have the following information on file for each site: records of the total number of children enrolled at the site, and lists of income eligible children provided by the school system, or the actual eligibility forms for income eligible children. Sponsors on closed enrolled sites that are area eligible should follow the guidance for documenting area eligibility for open or restricted open sites. Sponsors can use documentation of enrolled Head Start or Early Head Start participants provided and certified by a Head Start or Early Head Start grantee to document the eligibility of the SFSP closed enrolled sites. Sponsors should contact ODE CMP if they have questions on the use of Head Start and Early Head Start eligibility forms for this purpose. SFSP sponsors of closed enrolled and camp sites must collect and report to ODE CMP income eligibility information in order to determine the eligibility of individual participants for free meals under the SFSP. Such information must be updated annually and may not be more than 12 months old. Confidential family applications for free and reduced meals are current and valid until the last day of the month in which the form was dated 1 year earlier. This means that a form signed and dated by a sponsor on June 1st, 2015 is considered valid until June 30th, 2016. Sponsors have flexibility concerning the effective date of certification for program benefits. This flexibility applies only to eligibility determinations made through the application process of complete applications containing all required information at the time of submission. The date to be used to make this determination is the date on which either the parent or guardian signs the form or the sponsor official signs the application to certify eligibility of the participant. Sponsors must decide which date they rely on as the effective date and apply this date to all applications. Both school data and census data are valid for 5 years. If sponsors are unable to document the need of their area or sites by using sources such as current year school data, recent census tract or block group data, enrollment data, or migrant children status, they should consult with ODE CMP about the possibility of using other types of data to document site eligibility. For example, if the proposed site is in a public housing development and school and census data cannot qualify the site as area eligible, ODE CMP could assess the income eligibility requirements of the public housing development. If the income eligibility requirements are less than or equal to SFSP income guidelines, then the proposed site can be determined area eligible. Also, sponsors offering the program at sites located on Indian reservations may obtain and submit statistics on the population from one of the 12 Bureau of Indian Affairs area offices. The confidential family application for free and reduced price meals forms is used to determine the income eligibility of enrolled children for all camps, residential and non-residential, and closed enrolled sites. The information collected on the application includes household size and income or the case number for benefits received under the SNAP program, TANF, or FDPIR. If a sponsor requires a form in a foreign language, the translated applications may be used to determine individual income eligibility in SSP. Translated forms are available online. Please note, if one child in a household is receiving SNAP, FDPIR, or TANF benefits, all other children in the household are categorically eligible to participate in SFSP. As an alternative to collecting individual confidential family application for free and reduced meals forms, the community eligibility provision allows schools and local education agencies with a high percentage of low-income children to offer free meals to all students. Qualifying schools serve free lunch and breakfast through the National School Lunch Program and School Breakfast Program. Area eligibility determinations based on data from schools electing CEP as part of a group of schools or a school district must still use the individual school data rather than district-wide data for SFSP sites. These individual school data are obtained by multiplying the most current school level identified student percentage by the 1.6 factor. If the result is equal to or greater than 50%, meal sites located in the attendance area of the school are area eligible. If a school electing CEP collects alternate household income information to be used for other purposes, school data based on these applications may not be used to determine area eligibility. For more information on CEP, please review the Community Eligibility Provision Training available on the ODE CMP website located on the link on the slide. Area eligibility also may be established by using documentation from other approved sources to demonstrate that 50% or more of the children in a defined area are eligible for free or reduced price school meals. Eligibility determinations using approved alternate data also remain in effect for 5 years. Approved alternate data sources may include departments of welfare, zoning commissions, USDA's Rural Development Housing Authorities, Housing and Urban Development Housing Authorities, and local housing authorities. For example, if an SFSP site is located in a HUD Housing Authority development and does not qualify based on school census data, the site may be considered area eligible using HUD data if residents of the housing development meet income eligibility requirements that are equivalent to or more restrictive than the SFSP requirements. Sponsors should work with ODE CMP and with the agency that mains the data to confirm this information. Other forms of eligibility documentation include Workforce Investment Act participation, military privatized housing, and military combat pay. Applicants that participate in the Workforce Investment Act program are considered categorically income eligible. The Workforce Investment Act, which replaced the Job Training Partnership Act program in July 2000, is designed to link local labor market needs and community youth programs and service. For purposes of establishing SFSP eligibility, sponsors must obtain either a signed confidential family application for free and reduced meals, with a notation that the applicant is a WIA participant, or a list containing the names and ages of individual WIA participants enrolled at that site and signed by a WIA official. The housing allowance for military personnel living in privatized housing has been permanently excluded from consideration as income when determining household eligibility for free or reduced price meals. Privatized housing refers to the Military Housing Privatization Initiative, a program operating in a number of military installations. It is important to note that this income exclusion is only for service members living in housing covered under the initiative. It is not allowable exclusion of households living off base in the general commercial private real estate market. Military combat pay has been excluded from consideration as income when determining household eligibility for free or reduced price meals. Combat pay is defined as an additional payment made under Chapter 5 of Title 37 of the United States Code, or is otherwise designated by the Secretary to be excluded, that is received by the household member who is deployed to a designated combat zone. Combat pay is excluded if it is received in addition to the service member's basic pay, received as a result of the service member's deployment, or to service in an area that has been designated as a combat zone, and not received by the service member prior to his or her deployment to or service in a designated combat zone. And a combat zone is any area that the President of the United States designates by executive order as an area in which the U.S. Armed Forces are engaging or have engaged in combat. The exclusion of combat pay as described above is extended to deployment extension incentive pay. DEIP is given to active duty service members who agree to extend their military service by completing deployment with their units without re-enlisting. This exemption applies only until the service members return to their home station. Any additional DEIP payments provided to service members serving at their home station is considered income as they are no longer considered deployed. Additional forms of eligibility documentation include Armed Forces Family Subsistence Supplemental Allowance, foster children, homeless children, and Haitian refugees and evacuees of Japan and Bahrain. The Department of Defense provides certain members of the armed forces and their families a family subsistence supplemental allowance designed to bring a household's income up to the federal poverty line and decrease the reliance on SNAP for affected members and their families. The amount of the FSSA, based on household size and income, may not exceed $500 per month. Previously, the Child Nutrition Program's eligibility determinations counted the FSSA payment as earned income for households. In 2004, Congress established that any FSSA that a household receives must not be treated as income in determining eligibility for free and reduced price meals under any of the child nutrition programs. Certain categories of children are automatically eligible for free meals, and no income information is required. This is referred to as categorical eligibility. The Healthy, Hungry-Free Kids Act of 2010 expanded categorical eligibility for all child nutrition programs to foster children under the responsibility of the state or placed by a court. Therefore, these children are automatically eligible for free meals. Children experiencing homelessness are also automatically eligible for free meals. A child or family may temporarily reside with another household and still be considered homeless. The SFSP institution can determine eligibility for homeless children through documentation provided by the homeless liaison or another source. Additionally, Haitian refugees and evacuees of Japan and Bahrain living in the United States with host families are considered homeless and are eligible for free meals. The household size and income of the host family should not be taken into consideration when determining the free meal eligibility for the children. Instead, the children should be designated as homeless by the SFSP institution's liaison. Children enrolled in federal and state-funded Head Start or Early Head Start programs are categorically eligible for free meals in SFSP without further application. Sponsors may establish eligibility of all Head Start enrollees through documentation provided by the Head Start program. Forms of acceptable documentation include an approved Head Start application, a statement of Head Start enrollment, or a list of participants from a Head Start official. Sponsors may utilize income eligibility forms from other programs that base their eligibility on the same criteria as SFSP, but should contact ODE CMP to verify that the same thresholds and definitions are used for both programs. For example, sponsors can use documentation of income eligible upward bound participants. Upward Bound is a program funded by the U.S. Department of Education to provide academic support to teens from low-income families preparing for college. While participants in Upward Bound are not categorically eligible for free or reduced price meals under SFSP, sponsors of Upward Bound programs may use an Upward Bound application in lieu of a confidential family application for free and reduced meals form to determine individual eligibility. Those children who are determined eligible for Upward Bound based on income may be considered eligible for SFSP meals without further application. However, participants who are determined eligible for Upward Bound based on criteria other than income, such as being a potential first-generation college student, must complete a confidential family application for free or reduced meals form in order to be determined eligible for SFSP. When SFSP sponsors have to obtain individual eligibility information, they can obtain student-specific eligibility status from another child nutrition program operator, like a school or child care center, to expedite the certification process. Child nutrition program operators, like schools, may disclose aggregate information, for example, a percentage of the children eligible in a school, to the public without parental notification. This is allowed so long as an individual or group of students' eligibility cannot be identified through release of the aggregate data or by means of deduction. This can be helpful to state advocate organizations and others considering the characteristics of the program. There are restrictions on the disclosure and use of information obtained from an income eligibility document, as well as criminal penalties for improper release of information. FNS recommends that SFSP sponsors cite the regulation when responding to requests for release of information. Part 7 of the Eligibility Manual for School Meals, August 2014 edition, provides specific guidance on applying the statutory and regulatory requirements. The manual may be found at the link located on the slide. If a request for information is not authorized under the statute, or when authorized release is limited to name and eligibility status, the release can always be made with informed consent by the parent or guardian. Migrant site eligibility is based upon a determination that the site predominantly serves children of migrant workers. The sites operate like area-eligible open or restricted open sites and are reimbursed for meals served to all attending children. The determination of the site eligibility is based upon migrant status must be updated annually. To confirm migrant status, sponsors must submit information obtained from a migrant organization that certifies that the site serves a majority of children of migrant workers. If the site also serves non-migrant children, the sponsor must certify that the site predominantly serves migrant children. The status information must be updated annually. When schools operate on a year-round or continuous school calendar, the SFSP may offer meals throughout the year to preschool children and off-track students, for example, year-round students on vacation at times other than the summer. These sites may be open or closed enrolled sites and located in the school or at other locations. A continuous school calendar is defined in the SFSP regulations as a situation in which all or part of the student body of the school is A, on a vacation for periods of 15 continuous school days or more during October through April, and B, in attendance at regular scheduled classes during most of May through September. Some school districts use a calendar that provides less than 15 days for off-track periods. In these situations, ODE CMP may waive the 15 continuous school day requirement provided that the school system is operating regular school classes on a year-round basis. If operated as an open site at a location other than the school, the meal service must be open to the entire community and must be eligible based on school or census data. While the meal service is intended to serve off-track students, it is possible that an on-track student may show up at the site. In these situations, sponsors are not expected to identify or exclude on-track students. Sponsors should plan for or prepare for additional meals and consider adding more site staff to supervise the meal service. If the site is operating as a closed enrolled, meals may be served only to enrolled preschool children and off-track students. If a year-round site is located in the school, sponsors must be careful not to double claim meals or claim SFSP rates for meals served to on-track students participating in SLP. Schools that operate both year-round SFSP and school lunch or school breakfast should establish different meal services for the year-round and on-track populations, keep separate meal counts, and develop cost allocation plans for proper proration of overhead and administrative costs between the programs. The National Youth Sports Program is a national program intended to provide economically disadvantaged youth ages 9 to 16 the opportunity to receive daily sports instruction and educational programs. A NYSP site may qualify the program by determining that 50% of the children enrolled and reside in geographical areas where poor economic conditions exist, determining that 50% of the children enrolled meet the income eligibility guidelines for free or reduced price school meals, or certifying in writing that it meets the income eligibility guidelines of the Department of Health and Human Services, which is the primary grantor for NYSP. The DHHS income eligibility standards for participation in NYSP are stricter than those used to determine eligibility for free or reduced price meals. To qualify for participation in NYSP under DHHS rules, at least 90% of the enrolled children must be at or below the federal income poverty guidelines. Thus, if a site meets the standard and qualifies for DHHS funding, then it will qualify for participation in the SFSP as well. In addition to written certification that the site meets DHHS income eligibility guidelines, sponsors must review NYSP records to verify that the information is correct. Schools offering academic summer school programs may be reimbursed for serving meals through the summer in 3 ways: through the SFSP, the NSLP and School Breakfast Program, or the NSLP Seamless Summer option. Schools wishing to serve meals only to children enrolled in summer school programs may receive reimbursement only through the NSLP and School Breakfast Program. If, in addition to serving children enrolled in summer school, the school plans to serve children in the community at large, it may operate an open site through the SFSP or the Seamless Summer option. However, the SFA must ensure that these sites are open not only to children enrolled in summer school, but to any children residing in the area served by the site. Schools that operate summer school programs may not enroll in the SFSP as a restricted open site instead of an open site, so that meals may be served only to summer school participants. This is not the intent of the restricted open site option and is unauthorized use of the site designation. The purpose of the restricted open site designation in SFSP is to allow sponsors that want to operate an open site to restrict or limit site participation due to reasons of space, security, safety, or control. Child care food program institutions that have sufficient changes in activities or enrollment or develop a separate food service program for children who are not enrolled in the CACFP and meet SFSP eligibility criteria may be approved to participate in the SFSP. Institutions that are approved for both the CACFP and the SFSP must ensure that the same children are not served meals in both programs. Separate records must be kept for each program. Institutions may not switch back and forth between participation in CACFP and participation in SFSP to serve the same children. Institutions may not establish separate entities using separate tax identification numbers to serve the same children under different child nutrition programs in order to avoid the program restrictions or to earn higher reimbursement. However, if there is a legitimate need for a separate organization, then it may be approved to participate in SFSP if it meets SFSP eligibility criteria. In an effort to improve participation in SFSP by eligible institutions, some application requirements for CACFP institutions in good standing that wish to apply to participate in SFSP for the first time have been waived. Good standing means those that have not been found to be seriously deficient in program operation. CACFP institutions that want to operate the SFSP at the same sites where they provide meal service through the CACFP may follow the application requirements for experienced SFSP sponsors and sites instead of the application requirements for new sponsors and sites. This provision will be most applicable to after-school at-risk meals and snacks programs. Because most after-school at-risk programs may not receive reimbursement during the summer months, we encourage these programs to convert to the SFSP for the summer. In that case, they can serve the same children that they serve during the school year. In other cases, however, if CACFP institutions wish to participate in the SFSP, they must serve children that would otherwise not be served under the CACFP. Institutions may not switch programs simply to receive a higher reimbursement in the summer months. If you have any questions, please contact your assigned child nutrition specialist. Thank you for participating in this training. We greatly appreciate the work that you do to fuel Oregon's future.